Thank you, ladies, for being here. Daphne, Felisha, Marcea, thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be exciting because we're going to talk about real world stuff about women of color and money and business. Is that okay with you all?
Yes.
So let's kind of go and paint this picture about what was that first thought when it was time for you to invest in yourself. Now, I don't know about you, but the way I was raised, this was not a conversation that we sat around and heard from our grandmother, our auntie, our mom, girlfriends, or what have you. But now I want you to think back that very first moment that you invested, let's say more than $1,000 into your business, more than $5,000 or whatever the case. What was that moment like for you? So Dr. Marcea, we're gonna start with you.
So I want to say the first time we did coaching, it was easy. I'm like, I'm a pay in full, let's get that. It wasn't until I went to the DA program that there was that feeling of, oh my gosh, am I actually doing this?
And what was this to you? What was this?
This was investing at a higher level where I couldn't just pay in full. I wanted to, but it was more of a stretch goal. And what that did, when I made the decision to do it, I knew that I was changing the trajectory of my life.
Wow. Wow. What about you, Felisha?
For me, I've always been so used to investing in other people and their dreams and their wants and their needs. And for me, I said, this is something I really need to do for myself because it's going to allow me to empower other women. It's coming from me, it's for me, but it's also for others. And it was an exhilarating feeling.
Oh, the first time I invested in coaching, I knew that I had to do it simply because I couldn't afford not to, because I knew I was missing something, and whatever that something was, I knew that that program would get me what I was missing. But I never was around anybody that invested in themselves. So that wasn't something normal for me to see, but it was just something that was tugging, saying you have to, you can't afford not to. Your next level depends on you investing at this time. So I just did it because it was just this feeling. I just knew that I would get the results that I needed if I invested. So I just had to. But, you know, just thinking back like, oh my God, there was a leap investing in something because I had never seen anybody do that before. So I was like, I'm taking all of this, putting it in this, but what if it really does not work, but it's something saying that it's gonna work, so I have to do it.
I love that, ladies. I love what you just shared. So I want you to think about this. What do you think took place with us as young girls? Just thinking back to your mom or your auntie or whomever who taught you something about money. Why do you believe they didn't have this conversation with us about why do we invest in everyone else? When do we invest in ourselves?
I'm gonna say because it's not taught because they don't live it. It's kind of like the self-care. We weren't taught to self-care. And so the same way we weren't taught to invest in ourselves. And it takes someone else to say, hey, in order for you to continue operating the way that you're operating, in order to help other people, you have to put your mask on first. And now you can go and help somebody else.
Well, for me, my parents didn't grow up with that, and I believe we grew up where you're supposed to work in corporate America. You're supposed to work for example, a big factory type company, work there for 25, 30 years, retire from that, and then that is your level of success. There were no businesses being started and there were no investments. So that's how I grew up.
So for me, my grandparents raised me, so they had no sense of investing in themselves. They felt like you should work hard and save your money for a rainy day. Just in case something happens in your life, you will be able to have something to fall back on. So I think about it now, they lived a lot of times in fear of investing in themselves because they didn't know investing in themselves would cause them to have more. So they held on to everything they had because it was at one point in their lives when they couldn't. So when they worked for things, they just held on to it, and they taught us to save and keep your money, not invest in yourself, and keep a 9-to-5, keep a good job, and just save your money for the future. And no one ever talked about investing in yourself because they didn't see past saving.
You know, I can even go I want to go a little bit deeper. I can remember my mother who had a 3rd grade education. And at one point in my life, I'm like, how could she just stop there? But I didn't understand about the history and the mystery of wealth, of how they were raised, and 8th grade came along, or high school came along after, 16-year-old boys were out of school and they need somewhere to put them, so they started high school for them to go to school. And when I start learning all of that, now I understand why my mother and my aunts and all of them had, middle school, elementary school education. If I can sit back and think, I don't ever recall her having a conversation with me about money other than I don't have any. That's the only conversation I remember. I remember her picking up a mattress one day because I asked for $20 or something. She lifted the mattress. She had this little shoebox. Maybe it's just me. Shoebox, and she lifted it and she pulled it out. She had all these ones and these 20s. She said, here you go. I'm like, why don't you have a bank account? And I was in college at this time, mind you. She's like, I don't trust the bank. I don't trust anything about the bank. They're gonna take your money. And I sit back and smile on that. I learned more about investing in my 40s. I'll say 40s. Than I'd ever learned my entire life, and even more so now. So I think it's very important that we as women of color, and this is not to alleviate or discriminate or anything, but I really wanted to have this conversation about women of color and what we know about money, what we've learned about investing, and us investing in ourselves. And so what would you say that you believe other cultures have had that we didn't have growing up, per se?
I'm gonna say a legacy of wealth.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, so in certain cultures, there's the expectation, there's the tangible evidence that this is what we made. This is our nest egg. We're a family of lawyers. We're a family of physicians. We're a family of what have you. And so when you look at our culture, we don't have that. And so it's up to each individual family, each individual parent, mother, father, to decide, you know what, our legacy is going to be different. And when you start from scratch, it's harder for you to get to where you're trying to get to, because you don't have the backing, you don't have the advisors, you don't have the financial nest egg in order to do what others can do.
So there has been this thought of what I've seen. So you said something about if there's mom and dad are attorneys, more than likely the kids end up attorneys. If mom and dad have cousins, that the mom is a nurse, or her son and her daughter are going to nursing school now. So it's like what the family teaches, what they see parents do, they do that. So you became an MD. Where did that come from? If you weren't really around that, where did that derive from?
So my mother was a school teacher, and my father was a dentist. And so I had the, professional part of life. It just so happened that I didn't like dentistry. I preferred medicine. So it wasn't a stretch for me to go to medical school. But I think the thing that's missing in some families is the possibility. When you see your parents are X, Y, and Z, physician, attorneys, whatever, you now know it's possible. It's doable. And so I think that's the core of us being able to show our children what is possible.
Right. So Felisha, you and I have something very much in common. I had my first child at 15. You had yours at 16 years old. What was the conversation around money?
There were no conversations. Interestingly enough, I grew up seeing what I did not want for myself.
Explain that a little bit more.
And I will just be honest, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, I tell you, but I get emotional. I saw my dad laying bricks. I saw him not having a middle school education. I saw my mom working hard, and I did not want that for myself. But, having a child at 16, I thought, well, you know what, they're going to see me as a statistic, and that's not what's going to happen. So I strive for more. I aligned myself with mentors to teach me early. And so I pretty much looked outside of the house, or outside of the home, for people who look like wealth, to teach me with that.
Ooh, you just hit something. You just said people who look like wealth. So yes. Daphene, I'm gonna jump over to you. When you hear that, what does, especially for women of color, because can we get into this seriously? Because we'll look at Instagram, social media, and all of that, and we'll see what we perceive wealth looks like. What would you say wealth looks like to you for women of color?
To me, wealth look like for women in color is an entrepreneur, a person that leaves a legacy for their children. That's what wealth look like to me, because I feel like as African Americans, we wasn't given the opportunity to have a lot of things because our family did not leave us, wealth. They didn't leave us anything. So my grandmother, she used to always put me in different programs when I was smaller. She used to always put me in different programs where I was around business owners. She only had a 2nd grade education. So she would have me write essays, and I would have to go and sign up for these programs so I can be around other people outside of the people that I was normally around. I used to win. And I used to go in them programs, and a lot of those programs, I was in 5 corporate offices with the higher up. I ended up being their assistants. So they taught me a lot of stuff about business. So I realized that's what I wanted to do. I realized I wanted to be in corporate. I wanted to be a professional. So she put me around different things and taught me how to be an entrepreneur that way, because that was the only way she knew how. So seeing other women of color, when I see an entrepreneur, I see a person trying to leave legacy for their children, it brings me to like, okay, that person is wealthy. Because wealth looks like when you're leaving something for your family.
I love it, because I'll go back to just the social media. Social media has painted this picture that wealth looks like a Gucci bag, Prada shoes, something that has a name brand on it. And I'll be honest, I moved to, the beautiful city of Atlanta, and I thought everybody's, they're driving these luxury cars and they're living here. And I quickly learned that that wasn't what wealth was. And I'm in my 40s, mind you, and because military, 21 years, it was a different type of lifestyle, and then I come out being an entrepreneur, I said I did not want to do this. I did not want to do this one thing that I saw too often. I did not want to fake it till I make it. I didn't want to pretend that I, was wealthy and I didn't have that level of income. But let's go over to something. I was in a conference once for corporate, and I was sitting in the audience. I wasn't speaking, I was just participating. Someone said I should go. And there was someone from one of the banks, I won't name the banks, and she was teaching about money and investing. And she said 61% of women would rather talk about their death than to talk about money. And I sat there, I just started weeping in place, and I'm sitting at this round, I'm in the front of the round table, and I had to compose myself, and I didn't want to get up and bring attention to myself because I'm in the very front. And I got so emotional because it was so true. I've met many of women, especially when they want to start their business, and when I say, well, how much money do you want to make, or what do you want to do? And they're like, oh, it's not about money. They don't want to talk about money because for some reason, somewhere along the line, I believe in our generation, some woman, and we call it Big Mama, Grandmama, whoever it is, did not have these conversations. And one of the things that I saw or thought back to is that they made us feel guilty, or somewhere we learned we feel guilty about having money. Go ahead, Felisha, you look like you wanted to say something in there. Made us feel guilty for wanting success or that level of income. 61% is a high number of women who don't want to talk about money. We rather talk about our death. What do you feel about? How do you feel about that?
Well, you mentioned something very interesting about faking it till you make it. And one of the things I've heard recently is learn it until you earn it. And that's how I decided to live my life. I never wanted to have this perception of, and so I wanted to know what it meant to make money and not just look like money. And I wanted to really learn. And I feel like the more I did that, the more takers that came to me. And they were usually, family members, people close to me, as if what I have earned.
Say that one more time, just in
you
case
know,
somebody.
I guess I'm being kind of subtle because I'm like, I don't know who's going to see this.
Say it.
You know,
a lot of
baby
people.
and them going to be,
But it is real.
But
family
and
members,
I'm
yes.
sitting here, I'm thinking, I'm a struggling mom. I'm a teen, and I have this child that I'm taking care of. But people have their hands out, and I'm thinking there was a part of me that felt like, okay, I felt guilty for earning money. I started my first business at 19, and so I felt like I have this, so therefore I should give, and so I should give. But I felt like I pretty much taught them how to treat me because I kept giving and they kept coming back, but not today. Just saying that they just felt entitled to what I have earned, what
like
I've
you
learned
owe them
and
something.
earned. Yes, and I just, that's kind of one of those things that I had to deal with.
Daphne, what about you?
My grandmama taught me to not tell your business. You don't tell people how much money you have. You don't talk about your finances with other people. So I grew up that that's a secret. That's nothing that you share with other people, how much money you have in the bank or how much money you make. It's a private conversation. You don't allow people to look at your check stubs and different things like that. So it made me grow up. When I became an entrepreneur and you asked me about how much money I want to make, it was like,
That's none of your business.
yes, that's a secret. It's not, there's nothing I should share with you, you know, how much money I want to make. But now as I've learned on this journey, I should share how much money I desire to make. And not only share how much money I desire to make, share how much money I've made. Because how much money I've made is going to inspire somebody else that's coming along that wants to do what I'm doing. Because they see somebody that look like them doing what they want to do and making what they want to make. Because the problem is a lot of times kids can't dream to be bigger than what they are because they don't see anybody making it. That's why they so attracted to social media, Instagram stars and all this stuff, because they glorify their lifestyle. But I don't see this childcare owner making a lot of money. Because why? Because she's not saying that I'm a millionaire, because she's keeping it in the closet. She's not telling everybody, I've made $1 million on this corner changing diapers and driving a bus and taking care of kids, simply because nobody taught them to do that. But when you stand up and say, I've made $1 million here, I've made this, you're causing another child to say, I want to do that. I want to be just like that when I grow up.
One of the places where we learn that we should not have money is in the church.
Ooh. Okay, let's get into that,
Yes.
please. In the church.
And as a woman of faith, we are taught to feel guilt if we want more. And so as we struggle to walk that tightrope of, okay, I want more, but the same thing what we're saying to ourselves is that when we say we don't want more is that we don't value ourselves. And we don't mind giving it, but now it's free. And that free, that devalued person, when we do make the money, now we feel shame because we've now made it. And it's a cycle. And we're just not valuing what we are bringing.
I love this conversation, and you all just open up something, and I'll just share very briefly. I remember when I first started years ago, 6-7 years ago, and I wasn't thinking about being a millionaire. That was not a thought, because I wasn't around one. I saw him on television. The only person I could look up to was someone I couldn't reach out and touch, right? And when I got to this place of, this is how much I want to make a month, I want to make $10,000, like you said, I wouldn't share with anyone. I didn't want anybody to know, no, you don't need anybody to know your business. And what if you don't get there? If you tell someone and you don't get there, then you're going to feel guilty, or you're going to be ashamed, or you're going to feel like a failure. And then when I quickly got to $10,000 as a coach, and we're going to get into the businesses that you have as well, but when I quickly got there, I'm like, that's all I wanted? And I said to myself, Dr. Marcea, I don't want to be another broke Christian. I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't know what that looked like, but I know for a woman of color and a woman of faith, I heard the stories of how we're supposed to be, and especially around money. And I realized that is not going to be my story. I am not going to know biblically what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not living out the actual principles of what the Bible per se. And for those that are, on the spiritual journey, I did not want to be that way. And so I had to go on this pathway, so I learned more about investing and more about money, and not just money, but the resources and then what they can do for you. And so what I'd like to do, I want to shift over to your businesses, okay? And I want to really, for you to kind of shed light on what are some of the goals that you have for your business. And I know I've asked you at one point in your, on this journey of how much money do you want to make? And I want you to share, first question is, how did that make you feel when I asked specifically, how much money do you want to make? Were you at a point of, how dare she ask me that? Or, hey, that's none of your business because, how we were raised. Or, man, that really made me think that I get to decide how much money I generate and the legacy that I leave for my family?
Well, for me, it made me be like, wow, I can say how much money I want to generate in my consulting business. I can decide how much money I make, and that made me feel so empowered. It caused me to actually put in the work, because I realized as much effort as I put in is gonna cause me to reach that goal. If I don't do the work, then I don't reach that goal. But if I put in the work, then I reach that goal. So I'm super excited about putting in the work and seeing the results of the work that I've done so far.
Love it.
Well, for me, I loved seeing you as the example of what is possible. And I remember a time when you said, how much money do you want to make? And people were putting 10,000 in the chat and 100,000. I'm gonna put $1 million. So that felt really good to also be around like-minded women who wanted to achieve the same goal. But I love that you're the example of anything being possible in this particular industry. So I feel like $1 million is very obtainable.
Absolutely, in a short period of time,
Yes.
right? Yes. What about you?
I'm gonna say fear. And I say that because we are professional women. And when we're working for someone else, we have the confidence to make whatever that number is that they have chosen to pay us.
Everybody say, wow.
Yeah, I'd hold mine in. That's
Yes.
Okay?
profound.
But now we're talking about you being the owner of your own. And so when I got ready to say my number, it was, can I really do that? Is that really? Okay, someone's saying 10,000, someone's saying 50,000, someone's saying 100,000, some people are saying $1 million. I'm thinking, can I say that? Do I have permission to say that number? And the more and more times that I say it, now I'm more confident in saying it, and that's what makes it now possible. And that's when you can now put the work in and make it to that number.
Ladies, do you realize that there is someone watching you that is, you're giving them hope that they can do this? And I know, Felisha, you said me, I'm trying not to get emotional on this, but because I didn't see it when I was growing up, it has been like my life journey to be that example for someone else. But I didn't know I could even do it, because I'll be honest, when I first started this, I remember I had been in coaching industry for maybe a year or two, and I was doing okay, right? To me, I reached it, I'm like, no, you haven't, because I got in a room with other millionaires. And it started to shed light on, you still have a lot to learn. And they asked me this particular question one day. They said, what is your biggest fear? And everybody went in, it was my turn. I'm like, okay, are you gonna tell the truth? Are you gonna tell the truth? Because I am honestly the only woman of color in this room. 65 people, I'm the only woman of color. No, you have to cover it up. You can't let them think what you're thinking. And I said, no, I just had to give myself permission to be free. And I remember standing up in the front of the rooms and in front of the room, and I started to cry even before I spoke, because I was thinking, I said, my biggest fear that I could not coach women who did not look like me. And everybody's mouth just opened. And the instructor said, why would you say that? I said it because I don't even know if I can coach women who look like me, let alone women who don't look like me. Now, let me just preference what I'm saying there. I didn't know if I was even good enough to even get to that point where I'm a millionaire in the room, but should I be a millionaire in this room? And why don't I see any other women of color in there? There was another black male back there, and he was, he's from Africa, and he was there on behalf of his wife, and it was just the two of us, and of course we connected, but I didn't have anyone to say, hey, I'm afraid of this, because there's not another black woman out there, and I'm just gonna say it. I'm looking at the camera and say this, okay? There wasn't another woman out there that looked like me that was willing to be free and say what she felt. There was not another woman out there who said she was a millionaire, but she had this military background, and she's still trying to figure out, I don't wanna be perfect, I just wanna be Sonja. I don't even wanna be Dr. Sonja sometimes. And even when I use the title, people, what kind of doctor are you? And it was normally from white men. No one else ever questioned. At that point, they were asking, can you help me build my business? They didn't care if I was a therapist, PhD, MD, whatever. They did not care. They only heard my story. And they heard me share about where I wanted to be. And I get to sit on this couch today and say where I am, and this is just the beginning for us. But it's not just the beginning for us, it's the beginning of other women who look like us, and also women who don't look like us. So this is about women, period, but this is especially for women of color, because I don't believe that we've gotten the opportunity that others had. But we can't use it as an excuse. I, like you, Felisha, statistic, 15, had my first child, 17, raped and left for dead, got married 18 years and trying to figure out how am I gonna do this, and how dare you show up and say that you wanna be a millionaire? How dare you say this? How dare you show up and be an example for someone else? And as we talk about money, business, success, and all of that, I'm gonna say, how dare you? And the answer should be, oh, it's on. Put me in the game, coach, right? Put me in the game, coach. So as we begin, I would say close out here. I want to go through and you share what it is, the business that you have, and what are some income goals that you want to put out there to the universe. Because I want you to be able to go back and see what you said this very day of what you want in your business and put in the work. Not working harder, but simply working smarter. Because we come from backgrounds where we didn't come from money. And what do I normally say? If you didn't come from money, if you didn't come from a wealthy family, let a wealthy family come from you. So what would you say that you want your wealthy family to come from and to do based on the business? And you're going to share a little bit about your business. Go for it.
All right. My goal for my consulting business is just to empower as many early childhood educators as I possibly can. Simply because a lot of times early childhood educators feel like they're babysitters. So I want to empower them to know that they're not just babysitters, that they're to lay the foundations for children, that they're empowering the next doctor, the next lawyer, the next speaker, the next whatever. And my goal is to just make $1 million in my consulting business, because I'm trying to create a passive income so I can leave a generational wealth for my family, because no one had that for me. And when I leave, I want my children to say, my mom left us this, and we have all of this because she paved the way and she left it all for us. So that's my mission and my goal.
Awesome. Thank you.
I want to speak to a point that you mentioned regarding women who look like you, look like us. And you are also the example that women who look like us are willing to invest in themselves at a high level, which brings me to my business. I am a high value relationship strategist, and interestingly enough, the women that are my customers look like us. And I am helping women understand that they deserve more, and they need to understand they can live a life unapologetically wanting more. In love, in money, in relationships they have with their family of any type. And I just want them to understand that they can value themselves more. And I have been the example of that. And I knew I had an amazing opportunity to make a difference when I went into an environment of women who I pretty much shared and showed an example of what wanting more, desiring more looks like. And it was modeled after my life, just simply having a life of love and a relationship that looks very healthy and enjoyable, and we can all have that. And so I created High Value Lifestyle Academy to propel my mission further, and I believe it's going to be a 7-figure business.
Monthly or yearly?
High 7 figures annually. Possibly even 8.
Awesome. I love it.
I love it. Thank you. And I want to thank you for this platform. Thank you for starting the conversation. And one of the things that I always knew about myself is that I love to connect with other women. And that is what has propelled me into becoming your Destiny Life Coach. I'm Dr. Marcea Whitaker, and I help professional women who feel trapped in their personal prison of life. And I help them to break out. I help them to decide who they are, discover what they want, and then also to deliver on their destiny. My goal, and actually it's on my vision board, is to make $300,000 in a year. And that comes by helping women connect, helping them come from where they are, from where their struggle is. Because we, as professional women, we don't say what our struggle is. We push it down, we cover it up, we put it underneath the rug, and it isn't until you get found out. When you get found in the bathroom crying, when someone's trying to get into your office and you can't open the door because you're struggling. Those are the touch points where I want to help women to get over it, get past it, so they can continue doing what they have been called to do.
I love it. Well, as we go through this process, and I would say my name is Dr. Sonja Stribling, and I'm the CEO and founder of Born to Be Powerful Academy, and it's a woman's gateway to her next level life and business. What I realized on this journey of helping many successful women like you all, and many women that are out there, I would say powerful women, period. You all are powerhouses. And my goal was to really, my prayer and what I meditated on was I wanted to help other powerful women. I've been considered the general to giants, and I don't take that lightly, but I know there's some women that have come along this pathway, and many of them want to be coaches and speakers and authors and actresses and icons and all of that. But more than anything, I know that they lack the confidence and the guidance to build. They're highly successful, and I'm gonna say 6 and 7 figure, not in a year, but in a month, coaching and consulting businesses. And what I realized that I had to go first. And so as I went first, I can honestly say that I'm a millionaire, not a Instagram millionaire, not a millionaire that's pretending. And this is from not hard work, but this is from smart work. And so I'm truly honored that you all would allow me to coach you on this journey. 300K, my dear, that's in a month. That is already done. We had to get through a couple of things to get there, but it's already here. As far as $1 million in relationships, that is one of the top industries out there. And lifestyle, and this is the thing we all have to understand. As you're going through this, you have to be the example. Whatever it is that you want, it shall manifest. You're gonna manifest exactly what you think about. That's why it's gonna be so important for us to think about money, not in the way that society says, but think about it in a way, what can we do with these resources? And you can boldly stand before your family and say, I'm a millionaire, not to brag and not to boast, but to share with them, because there's somebody else watching and say, I was a statistic. I'm not supposed to be here. But since I am, I might as well do it at the level where I wanna do it. And so as we go through this journey, ladies, all I would say, those of you that are listening and the ones that are here, it's our time. And as I always say, put me in the game, coach. Let's go. This is Dr. Sonja. Thank you for joining in with this and talking about money. Cheers to success. Cheers. Cheers.